Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, starting our day together. For those of us who are in morning time, those who are different parts of the day, thank you so much for being here. How is everyone this morning? Good to see you, Woman's Warrior. Thank you for being here, my mod. YouTuber, thank you so much. Hello, Bluegrass Meadows, Rhonda Moses. Cherokee 1971, Melissa, Mimi Ma, Princess Sky Star, good morning. Hello, Justice for Kylo, Sped Teacher, it's good to see everyone. Hope you're all doing well this January 9th. 9 days already into 2025. Hello, Michelle Vincent, Victoria Burgess, good morning. Always good to see you. It's Crystal, Rusty Pipes. Hi, MTB or MTV. Love the name always. Thank you for your prayers. Appreciate it. Good morning, Linda Nunley. Lisa B. Always. Hi, Ginger Girl. Thank you for being here. Bliss Blessings. Maria misses the South. How is everyone today? Hi, Brown Eye Girl. Sunny days. Hope everyone's doing well. Hi, C. Taylor. Hi, K. Kelly. Did all of you see Jen Coffindaffer on her channel Break the Case? She broke down the Sebastian Rogers disappearance day by day. I have about 20 minutes left of it, but I thought we'd go through it this morning. Jen is a friend of the channel's and really appreciate the way she went through it with an investigative perspective. Not all of us, not all of our theories and all the drama, but she just stayed at what she thought law enforcement was thinking each and every day and what was going on. Good morning, Diana Bond, Chris Miller. Hello, everyone. So it's really good. We're going to go through it this morning. Just want to say hi to everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Good morning, Baba Rose. Hope everyone is doing well today. Tam here. Hello, WV Holla Girl, Linda Spence, Elizabeth Smith, Groovy Gal. Hello, Laura Y. C. Taylor, Sunny Days. Thanks all for choosing to be here. She ran Calling Wildfire. If you missed it, it was a wonderful analysis. Jen Coffindaffer is a former or retired FBI agent. She is just a wealth of wisdom. She is very fair and insightful, and she makes sure that what she says can be backed by information, and she does a fabulous job with this. And like I said, I have 20 minutes left of it, but we're going to watch it together, and it will be full credit to Miss Jen Coffindaffer. And if you have not yet subscribed to her channel, please do so after our video. She's wonderful. She covers the case. I first learned about Jen Coffindaffer before I ever had a channel during Gabby Petito case. She was on I can't remember. It's a Florida channel. He's wonderful. They're wonderful. Brian Enton was there. A lot of them. So wonderful source to have in this case. And we are going to go ahead and watch some of it. Great points that she brings out, some that we have on our channel already discussed and came up with. So we're pretty good. We're pretty good sleuths. Okay. And we definitely were on the right track on some of the things that we saw that we thought maybe they meant a certain thing, and we were correct. For instance, let me go back and say, on our last video, we because Jen had pointed out a week before in her video about the FBI flyer saying seen on the 26th in the morning around Stafford Court. So we went over that in our last video, and I thought, well, what if a theory, because this is all my theory, speculation, and opinion. We're discussing the disappearance of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. We are bringing in information from Jen Coffindaffer, but we are theorizing, speculating for entertainment purposes only, and developing opinions as well as the chat, not to be taken as fact. No one is being accused. This is all alleged. And so Jen shared with us many good insights into the case. We are going to be discussing them. And she mentioned the last sighting on the 26th. And I had mentioned in our last live, we had discussed, what if that meant heading to the sedan or at the sedan that pulled up? What if they had identified, perhaps, right? What if they had identified perhaps Sebastian in that footage and we just don't know about it? Good morning, everyone. And Jen did bring that up. She brought up not what I'm saying, but she brought up that early morning on the February 26th that he was last seen around Stafford Court, and she thought perhaps maybe it was something to do with the flashlights. Hi, Tony. How are you? Welcome in. Early morning show this morning. Good to see you. Hi, Karen Killeran. So I thought that was really interesting. She also mentioned that we had talked about in our last video that, let's see what else that we covered. Oh, that the scent, there was not a scent that was tracked from the home. And I had mentioned to you that Ken Wiedner from the EMS of Sumner County I quoted him, and I think it was from February 29th, saying there was no scent, but they had tracked a trail from the home or from the area to the pond, but it doesn't mean it was a human scent, does not mean it was Sebastian's. So I'm glad that she had differentiated between that, and we had discussed that. And also, let's see what else she brought up. She's so, like I said, just a wealth of information. Goes through it day by day, and we're going to get to it. She wanted, let's see, what else do we know? Well, she said she really does think these flashlights are significant, as we did as well. And that, yeah, I thought it was very cute. She said, you'd have to be a moron to think it was a trash truck. So very funny. And we've laughed about that. Trash truck going through the backyard, but only of one neighbor, just like the flashlights. So, hi, Queen Cece. EMA, thank you, Emergency Management Agency. And the flashlights just being around the home of the child, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers' home the night he went missing, right? So she brought up some great points, and she talks about it through a investigative lens, and does bring up KP's audio dash cam. And ironically, interestingly enough, we've heard the audio. We knew there were two versions, and I'm gonna wait for her to cover that version on the dash cam because I just heard about it through text message. But she says that audio that we heard is not from cameras from a neighbor, like we thought, perhaps speculated. It was from KP's dash cam, allegedly. And that is how they knew that Sebastian had made it home, apparently. So a lot going on, a lot of information. We're going to go ahead. Thank you all for being here this morning. Thank you, Tony, for being here. Good to see you. Happy New Year to all. And we have a new family member today, this morning. It all adds up. Lori, where's Sebastian Rogers? Yes, where is he? Welcome to our family. Everyone, please welcome. It all adds up, Lori. Where's Sebastian Rogers to our family? Thank you so much for joining us. Let's go ahead and get to Miss Jen Coffindaffer because it's a great show. We're going to stop throughout so we can talk about it. And if you've come in and I haven't had a chance to say good morning to you, welcome to everyone. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Christine Alaska. Rhonda West, Lady Roses, Grandma Minnie. We are going to watch Jen Coffindaffer. Hi, Sandy. I know. I'm so glad she said it wasn't a trash truck. I'm so glad. Yes, she did a really good job. We're going to go through it. We're going to pull the information. Hi, Peter Pan 13. We're going to pull the information out and go through it. And this is credit to Jen Coffindaffer. I put break the house. Excuse me. Let me edit that. Early morning, right? Let's edit that. Let me hide it. Let me edit it. And we're going to talk about it. Such good information. She does keep her opinion out of it for other than when she gives an investigative opinion and is doing this through an investigative perspective. Good morning, Mitzi Collins. A. Nichols. You know, I hope the grand jury's meeting regarding Sebastian's disappearance, A. Nichols. I'm hoping. Yes, please hit the like button. Hi, Trishy818. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and share the video with you. Get it on the right place.
And Chris is her second husband. And they...
Okay, I'll be muting myself just so we don't have an echo.
Is going to be a year since he went missing. And I thought it was really important to look at this case from the vantage that I really always should have presented from, at least for one show, strictly. And that's what we're going to do tonight. First, though, before I get into that specific view, I want to, for the people who don't know who Sebastian Rogers is, he was a 15-year-old when he went missing on December 7th. He turned 16, so he's 16 now. But he went missing from Hendersonville, Tennessee, in the middle of the night. His mother, we're going to go through the who's really quick, is Katie Proudfoot. Katie Proudfoot is married to Chris Proudfoot. They are married, but Chris Proudfoot is not the father of Sebastian. Seth Rogers is the father of Sebastian. They've been divorced. Chris Proudfoot, Katie is his fifth wife, and Chris is her second husband. And they live in a beautiful home, quite frankly, very nice in Hendersonville, in a nice neighborhood. And the night of the 25th, Katie Proudfoot, according to Katie Proudfoot, put her son Sebastian to bed at about 9 o'clock. At about 10 o'clock, Katie was seated at a couch kind of near the door entrance to the bedroom, and she heard a noise, which she later, when Nancy Grace asked her, what did it sound like? She said a thud, and she kind of hollers back to him. She actually calls him Bubs, I believe. And she says, listen, be quiet in there, get to bed. You know, I don't know what you're doing in there, but get to sleep. She doesn't go in and check. She just kind of hollers that out to him. So that's kind of the setup. The next morning, she goes to bed at around midnight. The next morning, she says she got up at 6 a.m. and Sebastian was gone. She says at that point, she started hollering, kind of screaming for him throughout the house. She looked all around the house and got in her car, drove throughout the neighborhood, drove to the school, came back, and then she also, of course, called her husband. Her husband, Chris Proudfoot, was reportedly working in Memphis, Tennessee. He's a crane operator. Called him, and then Chris Proudfoot made a call to the sheriff's office, not the 911 number, but just the number to the sheriff's office, where he reported Sebastian missing. So that, in a nutshell, is the background of this case. But let's get into it. What I want to look at, and what we're going to look at tonight, is strictly what I'm seeing that law enforcement thinks or believes in this case. Okay, we're not what I think, not what the social media picture portrays. We're not going to talk about the portrayals of different personalities, YouTubers, as to, whether it's Chris, whether it's Katie, whether it's Seth, who's responsible for this catastrophe. We're going to focus clearly on Sebastian tonight, and clearly on what I believe from everything I see that law enforcement thought and thinks. So we're going to start from the beginning. Let's go back to the 25th. Okay. On the 25th, I mentioned what happened. On the 26th, law enforcement is contacted. And on the 26th, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but I also want to say on the 26th, we know, because many of us have seen the video footage on the 26th at approximately 3:10 a.m. in the morning on the 26th. So the 25th is that night again. Katie Proudfoot has a full day with her son. She says on the 25th that their day was spent literally doing all the things Sebastian Rogers likes to do. She talks about him eating this gigantic thing of popcorn. She talks about taking him to the steakhouse. She talks about having breakfast at BJ's. She talks about this full day and how happy Sebastian is. What we know from the 25th, so I'm going to digress a little bit, is we now know about the video recording that was done at Texas Roadhouse. And that, I think, is important, because we have to look at what did law enforcement see. Law enforcement would have had that likely on the 26th. I do know for a fact that a lot of the individuals that were at Texas Roadhouse were not particularly interviewed by the police, but we know they had possession of the video. What did they see? Well, now we're seeing exactly what they saw. The question is, why didn't anything in that Texas Roadhouse video seem to stand out to law enforcement? And the reason I say that it didn't stand out to law enforcement is because it would seem people weren't interviewed. Who am I talking about specifically? Well, we know that, as an example, that
Do you own your own home in Arizona, but still rent your electricity? For a limited time only, homeowners in specific zip codes who pay more than
the green hooded sweatshirt individual was not interviewed by police back on the 25th, 26th, 27th. In fact, they weren't interviewed by police until deep into September. Specifically, December 13th was when law enforcement interviewed Green Hoodie. Who is Green Hoodie? Green Hoodie, for anybody who has now seen that video, you can clearly see that Green Hoodie person acted kind of hinky, what I call hinky, not normal, not going to the hostess stand, not getting a table, not sitting there and ordering, the normal behavior of somebody who goes into a restaurant. And I won't spend too much time on this, but essentially I'm trying to make the point that Green Hoodie goes in, goes to the bathroom, comes back out, doesn't order. It's a very unusual, and I shouldn't say very unusual because these things do happen, but it's an unusual situation. from how people normally react. The important part of this isn't that Green Hoodie is important, because she's not. Law enforcement has now spoken with this person. Law enforcement has interviewed. They've determined where this person lives. They determined that it wasn't nefarious, and they had nothing to do with Sebastian Rogers' disappearance. So we know that now. My question is, though, why wasn't it important to law enforcement on February 26, 27, 28, 29, 30th, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, not until December, when, and we're going to get into this, when to, at night and in conjunction with Dog the Bounty Hunter, why did it take that for law enforcement to deem that an important person to talk to? And it also begs the question, how about some of the other individual actions that were taking place that night at Texas Roadhouse? We've all seen it. There's a lot of interaction from different people.
Hi, everyone. I want to discuss that for a second. That was a lot of information. I'm glad that Jen pointed out that Sunday Fun Day occurred. And whenever I think of that, I think of Summer Wells' case also. The day she had, just her and mom and grandma, and then they picked up her buddy and went to the pond swimming, and I think got a slushie from Sonic, all of the above, the only sibling who got to go. And I think about that. And then for Sebastian, the eating the popcorn, going to the steakhouse, going to play games at the bowling alley, BJ's because he likes the samples. So I'm glad that she brought that up, because I think it's significant, and I think we'll know why. And she did say something that caught my attention. She said, "We've all seen it, unusual other individual actions that night at the Texas Roadhouse." Well, I believe Jen has seen a little bit more than we have, because remember, she said there were people watching them eat, etc. And she brings up the greatest point that we've all been wondering, and is why was it not important to law enforcement until December, when Dog and At Night brought this information to light? And boom, that's been our question, right? So why did they not act on that? And she thought maybe they, believed because of KP's dash cam, which we now know exists. And remember, Dog had said back in the day, there's a dash cam audio or something that we haven't seen, right? And he alluded to that. Well, that's accurate. Hi, RKB, Tina Von Young. And so that's accurate. There is a dash cam. And so Jen thought maybe that is the reason they didn't see Texas Roadhouse as significant anything from there, because they believed Sebastian to be home based on the audio. So the audio is real. Hi, Gina H. And it came from KP's dash cam. Now, think about that. If that audio is accurate, and what I believe I heard, and I haven't finished, is the one that's accurate is the one that we had on our channel where it says, shh, I can't be here. I'm at work. Go back to the house. All that. I know the prosecutor, that one. And that's the one that we have. It's not the one allegedly, from what I'm hearing, about the moving the seat and all that, so, in the car. So I'm gonna have to finish the video to verify that, but I had received a message about that. But it is verified. That's from her dash cam. So it's interesting, if it's from KP's dash cam, right? If it's KP's dash cam, how was that picked up? Right? How was that picked up? If her car was in the garage, how was that picked up? The Brinks fan, right? Maybe the Brinks fan. But that's coming up. She's going to talk about the audio. But if that audio is the dash cam from KP's car, which Jen Coffindaffer is about to release, if I hadn't played that part yet, how? Her car, KP's car, is in the garage, right? And allegedly the Brinks van is in the driveway, and as CP said, it didn't move. And remember, what did I say? Opposite. No one asked him if it moved. And like Peter Hyatt said, when someone adds stuff like that and you didn't ask it, you start looking at it. And we've been looking at that. Why did he say, oh, we've never asked, but we can't discuss the make and model of that vehicle? Because he was hiding something, in my opinion. Not accusing, just going through his words and analyzing. And now there's this audio. And we're going to, Sandy, hello. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to play it. And if I played it already, I'll replay it, okay? So that's significant. Because KP's two vehicles, one in the driveway, her work vehicle, one in the garage. And this audio is coming from there, not a neighbor's camera. Let's go ahead and listen. Thank you all for being here. I'll go back, Sandy, if we went over it already. I'm a little tired too. Thank you all for being here.
This is what I believe law enforcement believes. I believe that because they came to know from the dash cam video, really the audio recording of Katie Proudfoot, they know that Sebastian made it to Katie Proudfoot and Chris Proudfoot's home where Sebastian lived. I should have mentioned that. He was living with his mom, but he had joint custody. Seth had joint custody of him. So I think because, and having been in those shoes where you're looking for an autistic child, and I hate to digress, but I want to say this. We all know that Sebastian Rogers was diagnosed autistic. This kid was smart, though. This young man played video games. He had fun. He had friends. He, commiserated with his teachers. We've all seen that. We know that he was, kind of a prankster. We know that he was unique, as described by his father, Seth, meaning to me, I love unique people. Who wants to be the average cookie cutter person? So he was autistic, but to me, the point is he was also very special in his mannerisms in a good way, not discussing autism, but rather the kind of person he was, and he was smart. So I think this is important to recognize. In any event, getting back on track, when you look at the video on the 25th, it gives me pause that law enforcement didn't consider that. And I'm saying now, the reason I think that they didn't dive into that deeper or look at people from the Texas Roadhouse may have been because they know that Sebastian Rogers arrived at his home. And so they discounted the Texas Roadhouse video as being important. Do I agree with that decision?
Listen to this.
Not, maybe not. I'm not trying to armchair quarterback them, because I'm also going to talk a little bit about that. But I'm not trying to armchair quarterback them. All agents and all officers are different. Personally, for me, I think I probably went overboard at interviews, making sure everyone was ruled out, anything that seemed hinky to me, any possible video that could have been captured. I was the one that said, let's just do it, Jen, really, that's going, yeah, I know, let's just do it, just for my peace of mind. Everyone is different. It's clear to me from what I know now that law enforcement, I don't think had a heavy, they didn't rely heavily on the Texas Roadhouse video because they believed it wasn't important to finding out what happened to Sebastian Rogers. Okay. So law enforcement now has Sebastian Rogers believes he made it back to the house. And now they're looking at what happened after that. There are some hugely important clues that in re-looking at everything law enforcement has said, and I've looked at every second of it, read everything again, and re-looked at even comments that were made to TV, radio, whatever it was. And I think I have a clear picture that law enforcement truly believed on the 26th when they responded, that they responded like most law enforcement officials will in the case of an autistic child. What do I mean by that? I've shared with many of you my last case that I worked, even though I was in a supervisory position at the time, operating the command post setting and giving out assignments, keeping track of the case as a whole. It was a 6-year-old autistic boy. And, that case really sticks with me. I've mentioned this before because his mom was polygraphed, failed the polygraph, basically failed because one of the questions basically said, do you know what happened? She failed the polygraph again. And it turned out she did not put her locks. She did not lock the doors. So the child got out. He ended up finding him a couple of days later, unfortunately, in a pond that was at a neighbor's house, pretty kind of far away, further away than you might imagine. But anyway, terrible case. But in any event, the reason I say this is because as law enforcement, we did not stop looking at every possible angle. I asked anybody and everybody who was a diver in terms of from all the different law enforcement agencies, if they could please send a team, and we marked out each of the ponds, any waterway, and had them all researched, RE-searched, just in case he was missed. And that's what ended up happening. But my point is, we in law enforcement know, and you see it in the true crime community, when somebody with autism particularly disappears and they are a child, and Sebastian Rogers was 15, so I'm going to say a minor child, a older child, but a minor child. The first thing we think about is that they have wandered and gone toward water. From our experience, from what we know working missing cases, from what we know happens in terms of literature and what we've been taught and trained to know. I, in fact, just recently, just a few days ago, spoke with one of my closest friends. We worked together in the Houston office, and he now is an investigator with NCMEC about Sebastian Rogers, because I call so many of my former FBI agent buddies because I bounce a lot of this off of them, because I have my experience to rely on, all the facts that we know that are in the public realm, and some other clues. But I wanted to get him, and the first thing out of his mouth was, he was autistic. Yes. Oh, they've got to check all the water. And we all know that. In any event, as far as we know, all the waterways have been thoroughly checked. We know a retention pond was drained. It was very shallow. And we also know, and you might have forgotten, that another pond was drained that was nearby. I'm going to get into that exactly when it was drained. So, and we know there were divers. We know there was drone coverage. We know there were cadaver dogs. We know there were scent dogs. We know there were 200 people searching for this boy right after he was reported missing. So this was not a situation where they did a poor job, where you had a couple deputies knocking on doors and looking in crawl spaces or under houses. This was not that. This was an all-out effort with law enforcement to find Sebastian. And I feel very confident in that. I do hope they really look closely at every waterway. When I say closely, that they had extremely competent divers dive, and that if they had any question, they drained. And then I hope they did it again. And I would think that they would, because this is sort of searching 101 when you're talking about an autistic child. So we're going to move on from that. One big question I've been asking, I think all of you have been asking, why in the world wasn't a luminol test done in Chris and Katie Proudfoot's home? And why weren't any fingerprints taken? Remember?
Good morning, everyone. And that's what we talked about just yesterday's live, or day before yesterday's live, about the luminol and forensics needing to be taken care of before the house is sold. And we did learn that luminol is indeed can detect blood 11 months down the road, years down the road. So it's not too late. So we're going to listen to what Jen Coffindaffer from Break the Case says. One of my mods, could you please drop the link for the channel? Thank you, ICU. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Now, she did talk about that, and we talked about this on our channel when we were doing our study session, that the search initially was absolutely stellar. Sumner County Sheriff's Office came out of the gate. They did a stellar job. They were doing everything. They had resources. They weren't giving up. They were getting in front of the camera, talking to the public, telling the public how they could help, what to do about Sebastian's case, his disappearance, what we needed to know. Amazing. And I'm glad Jen recognized that also, because I do as well. The silence that came down the road months later, we were not sure what occurred, but perhaps, we will learn that later on. But I'm glad she pointed that out. And she's about to address the difference between the scent and trail being tracked. So I'm glad she's doing that. It's important. Ken Wiedner from the Emergency Management of Sumner County had said on February 29th there was no scent from the house. And Jen Coffindaffer brings that up also, reviewing a retweet that she heard from him. And it's important. So we're going to go ahead and listen. Thank you all for being here this morning. We are going over a fabulous analysis from former retired FBI agent Jen Coffindaffer, 25 years experience, still involved in so many areas, and such a resource to have in our true crime community. Thank you. She is also a friend of our channels. So thank you so much. And I will be full credit to Ms. Jen Coffindaffer. Break the Case. Thank you, mods, for putting up her channel. And Pamela Hale, thank you so very much for your thoughtful donation. I appreciate you. Very, very thoughtful. And our family is growing. Little Red Zero has gifted 10 Crime Time Buzz family memberships. Please thank Little Red if you receive one. And Little Red, thank you for your thoughtfulness and generosity. I appreciate that. That's very nice. Very, very nice. Our family's growing and growing and growing. Okay, we are going to get back to Ms. Coffindaffer. She is about to address the scent and the luminol. Like I said, she's just now addressing that and going to explain. Hi, wait, what? Canadian Cookie, Robin. Hello, everyone. Getting into the luminol and why she thinks it wasn't done. But remember, we discussed in our last live, it's not too late. I just hope they get in there before the house actually sells.
Chris Proudfoot said, no, they didn't take fingerprints. They said that wouldn't be necessary. No, they didn't do luminol. Yes, they were back multiple times. They searched all the vehicles. They searched all the areas in the house. They searched and searched multiple times, but they didn't do those tests. This is why I'm convinced they did not do those tests. I'm convinced because I think law enforcement on the 26th, remember we're going day by day, was convinced that neither Chris or Katie Proudfoot were involved in Sebastian going missing. I believe that they believed nothing nefarious happened in that house, and that's what they believed. I'm certain of that on that date, on the 26th, that's what they believed. I want to make sure I don't miss anything there. We know, and I think this is really important. I think this is really important, is we know that their search efforts took them all around the neighborhood, every single place. We know they went door to door. And I personally listened to the body-worn camera of officers that responded and them running and, you know, following the dog that went to the construction site. And then, right, a dog jumps into the retention pond. They drain the retention pond, right? We know all about that. But what I find very important here is there is a difference between a dog that is searching based on the scent of the child and a dog that is tracking a human scent from the Proudfoot home to the construction site. And is my understanding, it's the latter. Now, I want to specifically quote what was said from the EMS director. The EMS director specifically said there was no dog scent. He specifically said that. An EMS director, the emergency medical services director, said that. I actually want to get my phone because I wanted to read his exact quote, and I did not bring my phone here. But I'll say it at the end. Here, I wrote it down. This was on December 30th, re-quoted. There was no trail of Sebastian. That's a quote. There was no dog trail of Sebastian. He was talking about the dogs. There was no trail of Sebastian. Again, this podcast is focusing on what law enforcement thinks, thought, and believes now, and what they have said. And this is not the first time I have heard this from him. So even though I heard with my own ears that body-worn camera footage, and I've posted it on my Twitter, please go on and look. I've got it. You can hear the whole thing. You can hear him running. You can hear an officer. They said and then he says the footprints don't match. Remember, they were looking for Sebastian not having shoes. Katie Proudfoot is adamant that all his shoes are accounted for, and I believe that. I believe his shoes are accounted for. I believe he left that home barefoot. No matter how he left the home, I believe it was barefoot. He left without his switch. He left without his phone, but he did have his glasses on. Now, from the 26th, I think this is very important. At 11:17 a.m., Sumner County put out an endangered child alert. Okay? 11:17 a.m. In that alert, they say, this is what's critical. Rogers was seen earlier in the day.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, so I saved hundreds. But the money I saved, thought I'd get a wax figure myself.
Near Stafford Court. Remember how all of us it's bothering all of us that we know, according to video proof of life that we've all seen now, we know Sebastian Rogers was alive on the 25th at the Texas Roadhouse. There's no doubt about that. I believe law enforcement knows about proof of life after that, although we haven't heard it particularly. We know it exists, of Katie Proudfoot's dash audio situation that she had. So then we know now, we've known, but it takes recapping some of this. That endangered child alert, which I hadn't read, it's my fault. I knew there was one issued. I did not know the particulars, but they say on there that Rogers was seen earlier in the day and seen near Stafford Court. That's the 26th. So I believe that's why all the flyers, everything, the FBI poster, the law enforcement poster, that's why they're saying the 26th. Whereas many of us are saying, whoa, proof of life is the 25th. That's what we know in the public realm. And really, we know more than that because law enforcement said the 26th, last seen, according to that endangered child alert. Okay? So again, this is from the lens of Sumner County that I'm speaking of on the 26th. That's where we're at right now. Okay? Seen near Stafford Court. Further, they say, we need you to check out your houses. We need you to look at your garages. This is more that law enforcement says then back on the 26th near Long Hollow Pike. Near Long Hollow Pike. He specifically says, hey, public, I need your help. He was seen in and around this area and seen alive. You know, this is really important for us to revisit that. When I say seen alive, I'm not talking about the Long Hollow Court. I'm specifically talking about Stafford Court on the 26th. Now, that's what law enforcement is saying. I'm not going to comment about.
So what Jen is saying here is when it says on the flyer from the endangered report, child report, it says that he was last seen near Stafford Court. She says that means they've seen him, they spotted him alive. Now, it also mentions Long Hollow Pike, but she said that doesn't verify, proof of life. So at 11:17 a.m., they put that endangered child alert through. And we talked about that as well. Could it have been the sedan being pulled up? Did they see him on footage there? I don't know. We'll have to see. Thank you all for being here. We're going over Break the Case, Jen Coffindaffer, her analysis through an investigative perspective. I don't know. We don't know how they saw him, Little Red, but they have a sighting of him in the morning. So
about anything that I particularly think, just what law enforcement is saying here for everyone to consider, because it's really important, I think. They also say, law enforcement, that they had searched a 5-mile radius, 200 people in all the agencies. I think this is a good time for me to comment about missing children's case. I talked about the last one I've had many missing children cases throughout my career. People don't sleep. Agents, meaning law enforcement, we don't go to bed. We don't go home. We don't see our families. You heard it actually in the Madeline Soto case. That officer talking to Jennifer Soto saying, listen, I haven't even seen my own family. I miss my kids' things. I've been here, because that is the fervor to which law enforcement, no matter whether you're local, state, or federal, that's what happens when a child goes missing. You think on here, all of you, this case is tugging at your heartstrings. It's tugging at my heartstrings. I've shared that I have a brother that is special needs as well. And if you took a picture, which some of you can see on my Twitter, of my brother at his age and looked at Sebastian, they could be brothers. for various reasons, all of us, no matter whether we're just advocates, no matter whether we just have big hearts, no matter whether we're just big in our missing community, we're trying to do something to make a difference. This case, everyone here, it's grabbed. Law enforcement times 10, all those law enforcement officers trying their damnedest to find Sebastian. I just wanted to touch on that because while I have done it to a degree and everyone else has definitely done it to a huge degree, armchair quarterback law enforcement, they literally have and are trying to do the best they can with what they have. Now, this sighting, again, this is what they're saying on the 26th near Stafford Court. Could this be? And I understand, I've watched the video over and over and over again of the flashlights. The flashlights are not a trash truck. You would have to be a moron to think that the lights that are in the Nick Barris video that was made public, whether he should have or shouldn't have, at least he's on it. At least he's trying to inform the public. And I just can't fault him for that. I think what he found, I think that video is critical.
Did you know that animals listen to dominating tactics because they're scared? If you want to have a mindful relationship with...
And I don't care about all the, reenactments. Look at the video. Look at the video. So much, I think, that is discussed takes away really our ability to just see what we see and use our common sense and our God-given intelligence. Look at that video. There's a light source that's small here. There's a second source here, closer to the house. It's all behind in kind of what I call a green belt, but this, grass area. And then, they're both like right here. And then one person, the second person, I'll call it number 2, watch the video, please. Again, if you haven't seen it, gets obscured by bushes. Then light 1 goes off camera. Then light 2 follows the person. Is that what we're meaning by the 26th? Because it's 3:10 in the morning. Now, many of you might be saying, and I said this early on. Chris and Katie Proudfoot both said, and I just listened to it again today. That trash truck thing is baloney, and it's just mentioned by who. That's what Chris says. That's just who's stating that. And then Seth says also, no, it's not an investigative lead. Law enforcement did not comment, by the way. Their comment, which Craddock said at the time when he was confronted with it, and I'm sure they were upset it got out. When confronted at the time, they said, we received a lot of video. Basically, we're not going to comment. We received a lot of video. And I understand why they're upset. I really do. Because if I were in law enforcement, I'd be upset. Now I'm kind of in this middle space. So I understand both sides of it. I believe Nick Barris was doing his job. And I believe law enforcement was doing their job, deciding not to comment about it. And as far as why the parents made those comments, I believe likely maybe law enforcement said nothing to worry about. But from my view as an investigator, I see that it's significant. That's the night he goes missing. It is not a trash truck. Look at it for yourselves. That's my opinion. And I wonder if it's law enforcement's opinion. I've never commented. And until law enforcement says it, I have to go with what my eyes see. I really want you to watch it. I have to go with what my eyes see. Add on top of that according to Katie Proudfoot, Sebastian Rogers did not leave, and according to law enforcement, did not leave empty-handed. No switch and no cell phone, but he had this keychain type flashlight. So you put that together, keychain like flashlight, the hour of the morning this occurred, plus the fact that it's two separate sources. One goes this way, one goes this way, and then goes back this way. Who was that? Who is that? Is that what law enforcement is chalking up to their 26th that he was cited in and around Stafford Court? Is that why they're saying the 26th? That's never been clarified. All right, moving right along. The 27th.
I love the way she's taking it day by day. Love that she said you have to be a moron to believe that's a trash truck. She believes it's the flashlights, obviously are people, but is wondering where I think possibly the sighting could be at the sedan that pulled up. She's thinking it could be they are considering that it's the flashlights was maybe one Sebastian. Very interesting take. She also mentions that law enforcement has not said themselves, they have not debunked the flashlights themselves. That Craddock, she quoted, said, "We received a lot of video." Basically, no comment. So they were probably very upset that got out. It's important. And we're gonna go over it. I know we've watched it over and over and over again, but on our next live, so hit that subscribe and notification bell, we are going to watch it again. And just now we know some different things, look at it with a different eye. So thank you all for being here. This is full credit to Jen Coffindaffer, Break the Case. Her analysis based on a law enforcement's investigator's perspective, and she has experience and wisdom from 25 plus years with the FBI. Thank you for being here. We're going to continue.
The 27th is very significant because law enforcement, again, this is all about law enforcement. Law enforcement says at 3:25 p.m., they upgrade from the endangered child alert to an Amber Alert. It wasn't always an Amber Alert. It was an endangered child upgraded to an Amber Alert. Let me tell you what law enforcement said as to why. Based on, this is, I'm quoting, based on additional investigative information. So based on the investigation that had been done on the 26th, they determined on the 27th that they needed to make this an Amber Alert. And of course, they needed to make this an Amber Alert. You know, an Amber Alert typically signifies a child being somehow abducted or taken in some way. And it makes sense to me that their investigation started veering in that way. Now, we're not going to run through all the different scenarios and all the different people that could be involved. We're going to stick with what law enforcement says. But this is telling. They also say they are worried. They're worried because they say Sebastian is not dressed properly for the cold. Now, I looked it up, and you can look it up too. If you look on that date, on the 26th, if you look, it was cold. It was in the 30s, if not, actually the bar graph that I saw, I just saw it stop at 30. Could it have gotten a little bit colder than 30? Perhaps. I heard somebody else mention the 28 degrees. I don't know exactly how cold it was. It was cold. 32 degrees is freezing. He's barefoot, and they, oh, by the way, I meant to say this. According to their flyer, they specifically say how he is dressed. And again, that's that black sweatshirt, not a hoodie, and a black sweatpants, which were later described, by the way, as kind of these. They're not the sweatpants like the big woolly sweatpants. At least that's not how it was described. They even described maybe like a stripe that went on the side. But law enforcement says black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, and no shoes. How Sebastian Rogers or anyone, and I looked back at the video from the night before. I don't see him wearing a coat, at least when he goes to the car. In fact, he's got his hands deep in his pocket. He looks cold to me, even when he's sitting there eating. He just looks cold. I say that, when people move around a lot, but maybe he moves around a lot. His hands are deep in his pockets. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he always has his hands in his pockets. Maybe he was cold, because if you look at other people coming in, they are in huge jackets. There's a guy in this big yellow jacket. I mean, we know it was cold out. It was cold out. That's just a fact. So sorry, I was trying to do this. So the bottom line is it's cold out, and law enforcement specifically says they're very concerned about that fact. And they say that basically a front is coming in. So a cold front, cold snap is coming in. They talk about that. So this is very important that they change it. Okay. Keeping to the 27th. Not dressed properly. Oh, this is interesting. And I had forgotten this. Maybe some of you had forgotten. Maybe some of you never knew. Maybe some of you knew it then and know it now. But they played his favorite song, Eye of the Tiger. Who doesn't love that song? Rocky, I'm the Eye of the Tiger. They played that, trying to get him to hear it. What does all of this tell me? 25th, 26th, 27th. I say the 25th because I'm just saying law enforcement had that film at that time, and they didn't decide to do anything about it, really, to any particular degree. So they believe that he makes it home, that nobody at the Texas Roadhouse has anything to do with his disappearance. They believe Katie, that he in fact walked out of that house. They believe that he's endangered. They believe he was in a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, and no shoes with a flashlight. That's what law enforcement believes. That's why they didn't do luminol. That's why they didn't check for prints.
In other news, Arizona residents are going to be happy to hear this. It just came out. There's a new website where any Arizona.
And the fact that they believe he was seen on the 26th. And as far as those two flashlights and what we heard from the parents, again, I believe the parents believed that. I believe they were told that. But I believe those lights are significant. I know we said we were just going to talk about what law enforcement said. I think because law enforcement didn't come out like they did with the glasses, like they did with the green hoodie, and say, whoa, stop, not important. You never heard that about those lights. You never heard it. And it's because those lights are important. That's what I think. Unless law enforcement comes out and changes or adds or says they're not important, that's what that tells me. All right, going to the 28th. The 28th, I believe there was rain and it was cold. And of course, by this time, Sumner County's involved. Law enforcement, FBI is involved, at least to some degree, although it seems to be a very minor degree, and I'm going to talk more about that. Because at the 29th, there's a press conference, and they come out and they say, listen, there's no sightings. We haven't seen him. He's basically disappeared since the sighting on the 26th, early in the morning. On the 29th is when they drained a pond. So they drain a pond on the 29th. On March 2nd, again, no sightings. But I thought this was interesting, and I didn't remember this. Did you know that on the 26th, there was a $3,000 reward offered by an anonymous person in Nashville, and that was later up to $3,500 reward offered? Maybe some of you remember that. I truly did not remember that. But in researching this, there was a reward offered very early on. And typically, I want to say this too. We're going to get into this a little bit more. But when you see rewards offered by law enforcement or the FBI, oftentimes they are not offered out of their coffers. They are offered out of the coffers of family, friends, and anonymous donors. That then the FBI makes the announcement there's a $50,000 reward, but it's not necessarily the FBI's money. I was talking with my friend from NICMIC actually about this, and we were going back and forth about it because I know personally you can do ECs and get case funds to offer rewards. I believe that's what happened in this case with the FBI, but in the other reward that was offered, the $3,500, that was from an individual donor, and it was done very early. So that's what happened on March 2nd. On March 4th, that's when law enforcement came out and said, listen, we're scaling back our search efforts. We're moving to investigative efforts, and we're moving away from search efforts. And that's what they had to do at that time. This is so manpower intensive. They had said they searched a 5-mile radius extremely well. And at that point, I'm just going to be honest. Sebastian Rogers could have been in Mexico, could have been in Canada. I'm not saying he's there. I'm just saying he could have been anywhere 6 days into a search with him not immediately found. I would believe that Sebastian Rogers, I said I wasn't going to say what I believe, but I think law enforcement is saying this as well. I think they were saying by issuing that Amber Alert on the 27th, I think he was gone. I think he was long gone with somebody. I do not believe he was in that neighborhood. He was in that 5-mile radius unless somebody has taken him and completely sequestered him in a neighboring house or something like that. He's not around there. He could be anywhere. And that's why it's so important that we continue to use our platforms and continue to search. Yes, there are other possibilities. I'm not going to get into those. I'm going to stick with what the needle seems to be pointing, at least where we're at on the, I'm only on the March 4th right now, where law enforcement felt the needle was pointing. They said there's no leads during that presser and no indication that he is not alive. I thought that was really important. No indication that he is not alive. This is from law enforcement. So what does that tell me? That tells me that law enforcement is saying, listen, we're looking for him. We don't think he is deceased. We think he maybe left with somebody, but he's not deceased. And that is such a strong and powerful message that was delivered by law enforcement on March 4th. Okay, let's go to March 7th, which is the next.
I want to stop and talk about that for a second. Little Red says, remember Letitia Stalk? I can never say her last name, Stalk. They did not suspect anything until much later when they saw a speck of blood and her story changed. And that's interesting because we've had so many story changes in this case, right? The timeline, the events, you name it. So, okay. And what did she say? She said that it is powerful because they said in the March 4th, when they said they were scaling back, she thinks law enforcement thought he was long gone because they had searched 5-mile radius. They had done it with so many resources. They just did a great job. And that's why when they got silent and we didn't see or hear much, it becomes really a question mark to us. What was going on? What stopped? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're not going to call other creators' names, so I'm banning them. Mods, be sure you're watching. We've got a few little haters in here this morning. Thank you so much for all you do. She did say that's a very powerful statement, which means that law enforcement was thinking the needle pointing to Sebastian is alive on March 4th and left with somebody. Okay. And he could be anywhere. Thank you so much for being here. We're going through listening to Jen Coffindaffer, and we are going to continue. Thank you all for being here.
Next kind of major thing. On March 7th, this was the Kentucky landfill search. Now, the Kentucky landfill is where neighborhood trash is delivered. There was a question about, well, why didn't they search the landfill where the construction trash goes to? I don't know that answer, but I can tell you that according to what I just read from law enforcement, that is the Kentucky landfill belongs to the neighborhood trash. So they searched there. Now, I want to tell you a couple of things they said in and about that search. They said, quote, it was precautionary. They said they did not have specific info and they stopped searching that night.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, $118.
This is the toughest one for me as a former FBI agent, because I know to do a landfill search, to do a search of any private property, I have to have a warrant. Whether that's a cell phone, whether that's a safe, even when we go into somebody's house, we would literally take the safe out and I would do a separate affidavit pertaining to the safe contents just to be safe. You can't go into private property and conduct a landfill search with dozens of officers. We've all seen the pictures, even though they weren't, I don't know if it was really much of a search, especially when you look at Quentin Simon's search, you know, how a real landfill search is done. It takes weeks, even when you know the specific area like they knew in Quentin Simon. I know they knew the specific area here, but recall now, goes missing the night of the 25th, early morning of the 26th, and we're already at March 7th. It would take weeks to properly search that landfill, because not only do you have to go north, south, and east, west, you have to go down layer by layer. So I don't want to digress. I just want to say law enforcement said they did a landfill, and they specifically said that it was not specific in nature, but you can't do a search without being specific, because you have to write a probable cause affidavit that would show there is evidence of a crime at a location, or that you believe the body of the crime is at that location, that there's some evidentiary value that you believe is there and you believe it's there now. Those are the parameters. And then you put together facts that would support that. Now, I could write a probable cause affidavit for this landfill right now as we talk, but it would include facts that I don't know exist. That's what you would need in this to show that there was nefarious action. So anyway, but I'm sticking with what law enforcement said, but I had to add that caveat in this particular case. All right, let's go on to March 28th. Okay, on March 28th, Seth gives an interview, and you know, he provides some information in that interview Specifically, he talks about those trash trucks. Again, I think he was told that and said that. I think the Proudfoots also said it in good faith. He says that, let's see, that there was no dog scent, that he had been advised of that. And that doesn't match up to the body-worn camera, but it matches up to what law enforcement has told the public through the emergency management system individual who has been involved in these press conferences, okay? And again, they were very smart in saying specific scent to Sebastian, and that's what I think we need to keep in mind. That just because a dog followed a scent, was it Sebastian's or was it a human scent? And that's what I think, again, not to repeat myself, but I think I did the situation. Okay, we're going now to April 2nd. This was a big.
And I really want to go over that again because it's so important. The dog did not follow Sebastian's specific scent. That dog was trained to follow human scent. So very important, because it could have been any last person who that dog was following. And that's really important. It wasn't Sebastian's scent. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. She also mentions the landfill search, also very important. Now, we've talked about the fact that they weren't there very long. Jen's talked about that many times and talks about that it's not precautionary. You have to have probable cause, which means you think you're going to find evidence or something there, Sebastian-wise, and have facts to support it. And it shows that you believe there was nefarious action. And so this was back on March 7th that they're searching a landfill. So they've already gotten all this probable cause put together, got their documents filled out, went before the judge, I think it is, that we learned, and swore that it's true, that they believe this before it's even granted, right? And they were not there for very long, and they were not wearing hazmat suits. So it's really interesting to me. And she does point out, Quentin Simon, which we've talked about, how long they were there and what they were wearing, all the proper hazmat protection. And this was 10 days after Sebastian disappeared. So, I don't know what they were looking for. I don't know if they found something, but they stopped very quickly. And it's been something we've all mentioned, and hopefully we're going to learn one day why, what occurred, right? Because we are going to get justice for whoever did this. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to continue. Good morning.
Press conference again with that Ken Widener, with EMS, with the PIO, the information officer for Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and of course Chief Deputy Craddock. And they're all getting together and they're letting everybody know, oh my gosh, now we're at over a week, where are we at? So they're letting everybody know. They talk about the Cajun Navy. They say they're not working with them, but they say that they think it's good that they're handing out flyers. They say that the Cajun Navy has never reported one threat, which we all kind of knew who have kept up with this case. They only mentioned the FBI on April 2nd and Secret Service as sort of, I think their exact words is, have been helpful, or words to that effect, that they're helpful. That doesn't mean they're part of the investigation. I would even say, I don't know if at that point that the FBI even had a police cooperation case open. They might have, but you have to predicate that and write an EC, an electronic communication, and have it signed off by your supervisor, and then have, case funds and everything assigned to work that case, right? But they just said they were helpful. and they said Secret Service were helpful. I believe that that's related probably to the digital evidence that was seized. Secret Service really has some of the state-of-the-art tools to investigate digital forensics on phones. So I believe that's the nexus there. And then, of course, the FBI has many of the same capabilities, more people, investigative abilities. So perhaps they, said, we're here to help. I think they were certainly involved, but not in any sort of leadership capacity that I've been able to tell. And Chief Deputy Craddock essentially says that. In addition, let's see, he says they saw at that point, so on April 2nd, they'd had 314 tips. So 314 tips they were following up on. He says there's no footprints, there's no photographs, there was nothing indicating what happened to Sebastian Rogers. Basically, he's saying at this press conference, he's vanished, that they don't have anything and that they don't have leads. He says, however, there's no quote, there's no evidence to support foul play. So again, on April 2nd, he is saying, I don't believe that there's foul play. I don't believe there's foul play on the part of Chris or Katie Proudfoot or Seth, the parents. They've been fully cooperative. They've been fantastic. They've done whatever we've asked. And that he specifically says, again, this is per law enforcement, no evidence to support foul play, okay? I think that's important. Again, consider the date, April 2nd. That's what he's saying. Let me tell you, so I will say, I have a problem with this from this standpoint. Again, we're sticking to what they're saying, but I just have to add a caveat here. If you don't have any evidence of foul play, you better darn well not issue an Amber Alert.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Robbins. Listen, I'm on my way to the studio and the sun is setting on an opportunity and I don't want you to miss out. I don't know if you've
That was very powerful. If you don't have any evidence of foul play, you better not issue an Amber Alert, because an Amber Alert means taken, abducted, kidnapped.
It's the premise of an Amber Alert. So I'm going to call a little bit of BS on this. I think what he was trying to say is the parents. We don't have any evidence of foul play with the parents at that point, any of them. But he does it, he says it pretty broadly. But of course you have evidence of foul play. Sebastian Rogers did not walk away and disappear into thin air without help. Someone picked up that child, took that child. There was a rendezvous planned, or somebody else he knew coordinated him going missing, period. So I believe that Craddock meant in regard to the parents, but obviously they knew there was foul play afoot the minute they issued an Amber Alert. Okay. Let's see. 4/4. Ellie comes out April 4th and says, listen, I know it seems quiet. We're not doing all these searches. We don't have hundreds of people out here, but we're committed. We're still committed to finding Sebastian Rogers. On 4/26, there was a interesting interview of Heather Cohen. Again, Heather was a PI hired by Seth Rogers. She comes out and basically says, I had a meeting with them, but they're basically meaning law enforcement isn't sharing any information with us. So, but she's interviewed on TV and says that their law enforcement isn't sharing information. So that is very usual and normal. Any PI that comes out and says that Law enforcement is, let me look at the case file. Law enforcement is sharing videos. Law enforcement's sharing, yeah, I'm right in there with them. That is a crock of absolute baloney. And Heather said that basically, yeah, no, they're not sharing jack squat with us. We met just to tell them we're on their case. They could see our faces, but no, they're not doing anything, okay? That is truthful. PIs don't get privy to anything. They can pound the pavement. They can conduct interviews. If they're licensed, of course, they have databases they can use that any of us, well, for the most part, can use, depending on what business we're in. And but anyway, I'm not going to digress. I'm just going to say law enforcement isn't working hand in hand with any PIs then, now, or in the future. It's not what they do. I mean, I can't even imagine a PI ever calling and saying, hey, can we come chat it? No, no, please just try not to get too in my way with the case. But on missing cases, law enforcement often to a degree welcomes private investigators, because legitimate private investigators, and if anyone ever needs one, please let me give you the name of retired FBI special agents that have amazing connections with local law enforcement. So even though they might not be able to get a lot of information, they at least can call up somebody that they worked a homicide with, or worked a, you know, transportation of stolen goods or a gang case with, and say, yo, buddy, what's going on here? Is there, you know, anything you can help me out with, you know, confidentially? Again, no PI worth their salt would ever come out and say a meeting like that took place. But my point is please let me know, and I will text you a PI that can help you, that's legitimate, that's licensed, that has the proper connections. Most of the PIs I know still work within the area that they were FBI agents, which is so great. When you can do that, you already have the connections and know people. So please don't go outside of that. Just DM me. I will hook you up. But she comes out and tells the truth. And so basically, I just wanted to touch on that really quick. On 8/28, that's when the FBI reward comes out. That's $50,000. I've talked about this before on other lives. You have to do an electronic communication, and you're going to try to show, or you're going to show that this is a criminal investigation. They don't just do this for everybody. It was funny on Twitter. I said, give me one case, and then somebody gave me a case. I said, oh no, that girl was abducted. She was sexually molested. Yes, she was returned back to her family, and the guy was charged. The FBI just doesn't offer up rewards like this unless they believe that there is somebody that is involved with the person going missing. That's just facts. They have to write it up. It's $50,000. It's a big amount of money. All right. 9/19/24. Dog the Bounty Hunter at this point joins the investigation. I very strongly supported him joining. He has a huge voice. He has a huge footprint on social media. And, you know, if you're wondering, is Dog the Bounty Hunter out there beating the bushes? No. But what Dog the Bounty Hunter is doing is he's lending his name to the investigation. He has a group he's working with, and so he gives them suggestions. He guides them. We know they have a lead attorney, or I'm sorry, a lead investigator. I wrote her name down, Dice Davis, who's a private investigator. And we know At Night Investigations, I receive weekly information about leads they're running down. They were the ones that saw the green hoodie. You know, they analyze that. That's what they're doing. They are actually looking at everything, and in a sense, you know, kind of looking over the shoulder at law enforcement and saying, hey, did you look at this? Hey, did you notice this? Hey, you know, you might not get this tip, but we're getting it because we're not law enforcement. And some people don't want to say anything to law enforcement, but they'll call Dog. They'll call him up and give a tip. So I think it was very important he get involved. Also, as of December 7th of this year, The total amount that's being offered is $225,000. I think that's really important. People can poo-poo and say, yeah, at night investigations will never do that, or dog will never do that. You know, please, until they don't keep their word on a reward that they've offered publicly, it's in print, it's in writing, we've seen it everywhere. We know the FBI said 50,000. You know, please don't knock them for putting that out there. I want to talk about why these huge rewards are being offered. Why did the Bureau come forth and say 50,000? I'm going to tell you why. This is sad part. Whenever you're on an investigation and tips aren't coming in anymore, and you're reaching a dead end, that's when you put out a reward. Why don't you before that? Because you are drinking from a fire hose, from tips that are garbage, from tips that are good, from tips that you should follow, from tips that you don't want to follow, but you're going to have to follow. You're logging all of that. If they're doing it correctly, they have it in a program, and they're keeping track of every tip. When it
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan Falcon!
when it came in, who's following up on it, and what the result was. So it's a lot. 350 is no big deal. I mean, I've had cases with thousands and thousands. So, but still, you have to log and keep track. They're still drinking from a fire hose because remember, Sumner County is handling this with TBI. At that press conference I told you about on April 2nd, I think it was, yeah, there was no detective that I saw from TBI there. I mean, the person who spoke was a public information officer. So at least then, I mean, they didn't even have, that I saw, that was announced, you know, a detective that was even at that presser. So I think that's important. And again, the FBI and Secret Service just kind of got a little bit of an honorable mention, not that they were really part of the team. So again, I know they were loosely part of the team, certainly involved in searches, but I'm talking about from a leadership standpoint. Okay, back on what law enforcement is saying. Let's see, I wanted to talk about the reward though and why they do it, why law enforcement does that. On December 13th, we finally heard again from Craddock, and don't be
Hi, everyone. I wanted to just talk real quick about what Jen is saying about the reward, because oftentimes they do that to generate leads. And we'll see if, you know, it's interesting because it hasn't brought anyone out, right? And NJ's, thank you so much. I will get flowers for Mom. Absolutely. And that's so kind. Thank you. I appreciate you. And also my dear friend NJ's for donating a Family Crime Time Buzz membership. If you received one from Little Red or NJ's today, please thank them. And Pamela, thank you for your sweet, thoughtful donation, and welcome to the family also. It all adds up. Lori, we are going, I want to just continue a couple of little things. She's almost finished here, but she mentions the reward, and that when Heather Cohen said that they were not receiving information, that would be the truth, that they wouldn't be, you know, telling PIs information, and that if she had said they knew everything, it most likely wouldn't be the truth. So that she is telling the truth there as far as how they usually work. They don't work with PIs. And that dog is obviously not boots on the ground, but he has lead investigators. They're at night, they're involved. She receives weekly information on leads that they are following up on. So Jen is a fabulous resource, as we knew. She has firsthand knowledge. She's seen and heard and read and gone through and looked at things we didn't even know existed in the case. So let's continue. Thank you so much for being here.
confused because I had several people say, oh, see, they just came out again and they said no foul play, nobody, you know, the parents aren't involved, no foul play. And then I went and I looked, and sure enough, it was a news report, but they had taken clips from April 2nd saying no foul play, no signs of foul play. So I'm just trying to say here that since April 2nd and then April 13th, where they say, listen, that the green hoodie guy is not involved. There's no nexus. We've interviewed. He's not. It's because I had several people say, oh, see, they just from a leadership standpoint. Okay, sir. So really part of the team. So again, I know they were loosely part of the team, certainly involved in searches, but I'm talking about from a leadership standpoint. Okay, back on what law enforcement is saying. Let's see, I wanted to talk about the reward though and why they do it, why law enforcement does that. On December 13th, we finally heard again from Craddock, and don't be confused because I had several people say, oh, see, they just came out again and they said no foul play, nobody, you know, the parents aren't involved, no foul play. And then I went and I looked, and sure enough, it was a news report, but they had taken clips from April 2nd saying no foul play, no signs of foul play. So I'm just trying to say here that since April 2nd and then April 13th, where they say, listen, that the green hoodie guy is not involved. There's no nexus. We've interviewed. He's not involved. Talked about that earlier. Other than that, we are not hearing from law enforcement other than these instances I gave. So what that tells me is they're dry on leads. That's why they're doing the reward. They are going to be revisiting, looking at everything, but they're really, really at a dead end. That doesn't mean a case is cold. I think they're still actively, of course, working it. I think these investigators are sick at their stomach that they haven't resolved this case. I think they're going to go back and relook at interviews and everything they do know. I think they'll go back and relook at Chris and Katie Proudfoot, specifically Katie, because she's the last one to have seen him. I think they'll take a relook at that. Definitely, I would. But we don't know. This is my whole point where we're at right now. We know law enforcement, throughout the time they've delivered messaging, did not believe the Proudfoots or Seth were involved. And we believe there was an Amber Alert, which means there would have been a taking of Sebastian. We also know that from common sense. Unless an alien drone aircraft descended on his house when he walked outside and picked him up and took him into the stratosphere, Sebastian Rogers was taken that night. I think all we can hope for at this point is that he was taken by somebody who did not want to kill him. That's what we have to hope. That's what we have to hope. It is more important now than ever to please, no matter where you live, if you live in Belgium, Germany, England, Canada, Mexico, Connecticut, it doesn't matter. Please get his face and name out. He literally could be anywhere. And I think we have to keep that hope that he's somewhere, as law enforcement, I believe, is revisiting their initial belief that parents weren't involved and that he left that house with somebody. We don't know who. Those flashlights are important until and unless Craddock comes out and says, like he said with the green hooded shirt, sweater guy. And like he said, when the glasses were found, and like they said, when that sighting occurred, I think it was in North Carolina, if I recall correctly, that was the lookalike. All three of those. Nope, nope, nope. Not them. We haven't seen that on those flashlights. I think they're important. Thank you all for being here. I know I've jabbered on too long. I'm praying for Sebastian. I'm praying he's alive. I know y'all are too. Please use your platforms. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time.
Wow. So very powerful ending. She is absolutely, hello everyone who's just coming in. Hey Gypsy. Wow. She points out that the flashlights are very important in her, and until law enforcement says they aren't, they are, because they said everything else wasn't important, like the glasses, the North Carolina sighting, etc. And she said that the Amber Alert shows us that Sebastian was taken, which is why there's no scent, I'm sure. And we have to hope whoever took him didn't want to harm him. So, as we are, as we do. She does believe that they're revisiting their theory that there were no parents involved. And one correction I want to say is the person who was talking to me about the audio, it was not mentioned the specifics of the audio. That was them chatting with me. So thank you so much for clarifying that. But there was dash cam audio from KP. And then we need to, that's interesting. How, right? How is there dash cam audio? Interesting to think about that, right? Also that there was probable cause had to be proven of a crime or something would be found at the landfill. That there was no scent of Sebastian tracked from the house. The dog was tracking the last human scent, but not verified to be Sebastian's. And then I wonder, why would they bring that kind of dog? Why would they do that rather than have a scent dog? Because that's so, how would you know who scent that is? So I wonder that. That's a question I'm going to kind of research. Why would you bring that kind of dog rather than a scent dog if you're not sure whose trail whose human scent it is, right? So, and then she, very wealth of information, shared with us, let's see, that there's a lot of footage at the Texas Roadhouse that she believes law enforcement did not initially pay very close attention to, because there are individual actions that occurred on there. And because they knew he had gotten home based on that dash cam audio, is what she thinks. And she has read through much of this case, seen, heard, she gets updates. This is a resource. Ms. Coffindaffer is a resource to us with factual information. And she went through it at a investigator's eye. It does give her a little pause that law enforcement did not, do luminol fingerprints, look closely at the Texas Roadhouse footage, but also thinks it's because at the beginning they believed parents weren't involved, that he had run away. But when they sounded the Amber Alert is when they knew he had been taken. And she ends by saying, we need to hope that he's with someone who didn't want to harm him, that he's somewhere and we can bring him home. And as they revisit things, in my opinion, I don't know, my take was she thought like maybe they were leaning a little bit more towards that law enforcement than not with us. But I'll have to go back and listen to it again. Want to see your thoughts on it. Hello, everyone. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. That was a very powerful, she also pointed out a very powerful statement on March 4th by law enforcement, where they said there is no indication he's not alive. And she believes that, they believed he left with somebody. And that's, like she said, aliens did not come get him. There's no sign, scent, footage, nothing of him. So he was taken. Who took him? Where was he taken? What was the reason for him being taken? And I know we have our theories. I'm asking like rhetorical questions, right? So it's absolutely. And that's why Sam UK, it could be a very dangerous to Sebastian. And there's people who say, well, why all the secrets? If you know something, tell us, or, things like that. Well, because it's about a child's life. That's why there's secrets. And in this case, because it's so dangerous, there's threats, there's people who are trying to resist allegedly him being found. We have to be careful. They have to be careful if we know something, if they know something, if we heard something, right? So, oh my goodness, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, this case gets more and more, his disappearance gets more and more muddied, in my opinion, yet At Night and Dog are trying to clear things up. She is concerned that they're at a dead end, and that the revisiting things, that kind of bums me out a little bit. Talks about the digital evidence that the Secret Service was probably able to get. Many resources the FBI can bring to the table, although they're not in a leadership role, they're in a helping role. So let's pray that someone speaks up. It's interesting with that kind of a reward. Is it 250,000, right? That no one is coming forth. So what does that mean? Yes, Sam UK, it's crazy, isn't it? It is absolutely crazy. The U.S. Marshals, from what did Doug say? They're standing by, right? Didn't he say that a while ago? So I agree, Little Red Zero. I don't want it to be a Summer Wells case either. I want us to find Sebastian and find all the children. I know we all do. We worry about Sebastian. Yes, I understand. I worry too. But we're going to keep the faith. We're going to keep hope. I appreciate all of you being here early this morning and your prayers for my mother. And I will go get flowers. Thank you so, so much. You're so thoughtful. And I appreciate you all being here. Wonderful analysis from Jen. We broke it down a little bit. And I think what we're waiting for now is for them to peel back the layers of what they need to discover in order to find Sebastian. The question is, do you think they will find Sebastian without arresting those involved? Or do you think they're going to need to arrest those involved so they can tell where Sebastian is? That's the question. Of course, Caroline Miller, thank you for being here. You know what I mean? So she did not mention the CPS cases this time, Little Red Zero. In her last one, she went over it, yes. And another thing that Jen, I'm glad you said that, Little Red Zero, because another thing that Jen Coffindaffer has brought up repeatedly, if you go to her ex, is the fact that he was in pull-ups. The fact that Sebastian had to wear pull-ups at CP and KP's home. at his age, almost 16 years old, 15 years old, had to wear pull-ups. And there's reasons for that. There's being humiliated, there's being shamed, there's anxiety, there's other connections for that kind of situation going on, especially when it's occurring in one home and not the other. Absolutely horrid that he was not allowed, in my opinion, to wear underwear, that it was something that was not being reached for help, but being punished because of, in my opinion, things taken away again. So I don't know. And Woman's Warrior says, Buzz, in my opinion, after arrest, I don't think people involved would talk or tell where he is, unfortunately. And that has happened. Look at Harmony. Her father's behind bars, convicted, and still not telling where she is. Make the arrest for the answers, in your opinion, Kim G. Thank you. Yes, the pull-up. Thank you, Trishy. I need to go look. Because the pull-ups, it's a terrible, there's so many reasons behind that, in my opinion, being demeaning, being humiliating, shaming, instead of working with understanding, teaching, coaching, trying to get to the bottom of things. There's also physiological abuse reasons that would happen. Anxiety, we're not accusing, we're discussing and theorizing. And it's just a shame that he was not allowed to wear underwear. What is that? So then here's the question. Okay, so he was wearing pull-ups when he disappeared then, I'm assuming, because he didn't wear underwear at their home. Correct? So, and that's something Jen Coffindaffer said on her ex. So when he went missing, he must have been in a pull-up. So I don't know. They would have found his scent, YouTube dog. They have not. YouTube dog is asking, could Sebastian have wanted to play with neighbor kids, and got lost in the construction site and fallen in the cave? They had bloodhounds out there. They had dogs out there. They had so many resources. There was no scent of him at all out there. So they would have picked up a scent, YouTube dog, if he was over there at that construction site. They followed a human scent, but they don't know whose it was. There's homes also that point towards the construction site, I'm sure, that have cameras too. In my opinion, I don't know that for sure. So, yes, lots to talk about. What do you think? Didn't need pull-ups at sets, but had to have. Yes, it's a very telling, isn't it, Karen Powers? So he had to have been in a pull-up when he disappeared. So them moving in the dark at night, allegedly, I think they used, in my opinion, the FedEx truck. And ironically, I passed by one yesterday, and they're like a U-Haul, so there would be plenty of room to load things. And also with the rotating cars, in my opinion, the rotating cars, they could have been loading things into, little things into the cars. Who is sending? I have no idea. Jen, I don't know. So hopefully they are going to find out something. I don't know what it's going to be, but let's hope it leads to Sebastian sooner rather than later. That it sounds like, FedEx sells their trucks when they get to a certain mileage. Interesting, Little Red Zero. Thank you for that. So it sounds like we may just have to see keep an awareness for Sebastian. We know we're going to keep the hope for Sebastian. We're going to keep his name out there. So please give this a thumbs up. Please give this a thumbs up. Okay, NJ's, I didn't know that. I will go back and do some catching up a little bit. I've been spending a lot of time with Mom. Oh, an FedEx pilot. Okay, interesting. So I will hopefully my plan is to see you tonight. I will let you know probably about an hour before, but it'll be 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we are going to discuss a Sebastian Also, we are going to discuss a young lady about 15 years old who is missing. They are concerned she may have been possibly allegedly trafficked. And another young girl who was taken, and they just found her on a boat with a 65-year-old man. We're also going to do an update on little Caleb Collins, the little boy who was abused. They're behind bars. The mother is. His family was in a car crash, and the only reason they knew he was missing is because the car crash happened and he was now not present, and they found out he had not been seen for 3 months before that. So we're going to go back and revisit if there's any updates there. So hit that notification. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not. Welcome in, welcome back, and I will see all of you soon. I do not know why they haven't arrested her or arrested over the CPS cases. I find it alarming as well. I'm hoping that there's movement on that. I'm hoping there is pressure to be movement on that, but there has to be a method to their madness, in my opinion. Okay. You know what, Sandy? We don't know. So any theory is possible. Any theory is possible. Yes. Thank you all for being here. I hope to see you this evening. Smash the like button and subscribe and notification on your way out. You are appreciated. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a wonderful Thursday, and I hope to see you this evening. Thank you for being here. Justice and for Sebastian, Wayne, Drake, Rogers, and all the children. Talk soon.